I think it's interesting. When we started building Clearbank back in 2014, which was over an accidental cup of coffee, the idea was to effectively create a new neutral player in the marketplace, a new clearing bank, which didn't have the tech legacy of the incumbents. That was quite important to me because I live in the world of real time, and we needed to move away and lose forever the term batch from the Oxford Concise Dictionary. And so the moving to an environment, being able to build a clearing bank based upon a brand new real-time 24 by 7 by 365 tech stack was really exciting for us. And equally being laser focused in relation to the customers that we bring into that environment, who are all regulated businesses, be those from a payments initiation provider through to large building societies and banks. We work with all of them. But interestingly, yes, we have an API, but more importantly, we've matched that API up to something called banking as a service. Now, if a bank basically just gives you an API, that's great. Then what are you going to do with it? How are you going to take that and turn that into a business and develop services which are consumer compelling? It's very, very hard. If you're with an organization that's running bank as a service, that moves slightly towards you because effectively, can I have a sort code? Yes, of course you can. Will you offer me FCS accounts, deposit accounts for my customers? Of course we can. What can I do with my API? You can do with it whatever you want because you consume all of these services in real time. So if you've got a clever way that you want to build something, please go and fill your boots and do that. And it's not a trade secret to say that today we've got 3.5 million businesses and consumers in the UK consuming open banking, bankers and a service via APIs through Clearbank. Now that we started that in 2017, so that's in 3 years. So, is that slow growth? I don't know. But is it changing things? Yes, it is. There's a curse, isn't there? We live in interesting times. I wonder where that came from. But it's fascinating really just to stand back and watch what's happening as a result of a global pandemic. An interesting aside is that in 2007, before the global financial crisis, RBS, that famous bank that we all love, the only thing that they had in their annual report as a risk was a global pandemic. And I know a number of people have been going up to Guggerberg trying to find that report to find out how we get out of the current crisis that we're in. I think the reaction to coronavirus, both from a government point of view and an economic point of view, has been quite stark. We've all gone into lockdown. We've all gone into shutdown. And that's created a number of challenges. I think the biggest challenge has been how do we all survive and how do we talk and how do we do all the things we used to do? And it was interesting earlier on sort of referencing the fact that, we all now usefully use Zoom, Teams, Google, whatever. And it's not just us. It's not just the people on this call today listening to us. It's their children, their grandparents. Everybody has gone through a massive digital education over the course of the last 8 weeks, the likes of which we've never seen before. I remember in 1994, we built the world's first online shop in Jersey. And we had 7 people who had access to the internet. Now, that was not a very big market. Now we've got millions of people connected, millions of people using technology and being forced to use digital technology because they're in lockdown and they're at home. And in our pre-call to this, I came up with a phrase which caused all of you to laugh. And hopefully I'll hear out of the window laughter from around the world. When effectively, COVID-19 effectively has created almost like a digital enema. We've had to look at what we do. Everything's being changed around in relation to what we do. And there are massive, massive opportunities occurring on a minute-by-minute basis as this crisis moves forward. Cash usage has dropped by 60%. Do we want to go back to a cash environment? Probably not, because where's the cash been? What that does is say, okay, fine, we've been struggling for years to remove cash from the marketplace. What is going to replace that? All right. How does open banking support that cash? But it's not just the transactional element of cash. It's how do we secure the transaction? How do we deliver identity, verification, credibility associated from a transaction between buyers and sellers in a new way using the environment that we now live and operate in. And I think that as this pandemic carries on, and everybody's hoping that we're going to come out of it shortly, and definitely Chris, you and I and Helen are hoping that pubs open again soon. But let's assume this runs on for another few months, and then let's look at the worst, that we have another spike and we all go back into lockdown again. That's a dreadful thing to happen, but that's only going to accelerate the adoption of the digital technologies, which people will have to use because they haven't got the alternative means of doing anything. So I think, sad that it all is, I think that the benefit of this is that we've been forced through a global market education process, which would have cost trillions had we tried to get it done. And I think that the alert, bright businesses coming out of this, who will not be operating from offices, are those that will be the winners at the end of this crisis. Customer service and communication. That's what's going to happen. Everybody's going to realize that because of our exposure to digital technologies, we can communicate in hugely different ways. And then that's going to sort out those that have got good customer service and good communication. Those that have got that, and financial is a very good example of that in China, will win.